The night was quiet, and the stars above the colony shone like scattered diamonds. The human named Daniel sat inside the small home he had just shared with his new alien wife. Her name was Lyra, and she was from a proud but gentle race. Their marriage had been fast, perhaps too fast, but Daniel believed in second chances. He wanted to build a new life away from Earth's endless wars and politics. Lyra moved with a grace that made him pause. Her tall frame, silver skin, and glowing violet eyes were unlike anything human. Yet her smile carried warmth. It was that smile that gave Daniel comfort. He thought this night would be about them, about beginning something new. But instead, Lyra's words froze him. "Daniel," she said softly, "I must ask something of you. It will sound strange, but it is important for my family." He nodded slowly. "Go ahead," he whispered, her hands twisted together, a sign of her unease. Then she spoke the words that struck him like a hammer. "I want you to help my younger sister. She must gain experience with males, and I trust you to guide her." Daniel's heart skipped. At first, he thought he had heard wrong. Maybe it was a translation error in the language filter, but her eyes were clear and her tone was serious. "Wait," he said carefully. "Did you just ask me to help your sister with that?" Lyra lowered her gaze. "Yes, it is our way. Before a young woman may be considered an adult, she must spend time with a trusted male. Without this, she cannot take her place in society. My sister is of age, but she has no guide. I want you to be that guide." Daniel leaned back in shock. His mind screamed that this was wrong. On Earth, such a request would be scandal. But Lyra looked at him with pure faith, as if she had asked him to simply fix a roof or carry water. "Lyra, I don't think you understand," Daniel said, his voice tense. "For humans, this is not normal. This is not acceptable." Her glowing eyes lifted to meet his. "But for us, it is kindness. My sister trusts no one else. If she enters adulthood, without this she will be shamed. Our people will laugh at her, and she will carry that burden forever." A silence fell heavy between them. Daniel felt the air tighten around his chest. He wanted to say no. He wanted to shout that this was madness. Yet he also saw the desperation in Lyra's eyes. He had sworn to stand by her, to respect her world. His thoughts turned in circles. Could he insult her family by refusing? Could he risk the bond between them only hours after they had married? Lyra reached across the table, her cool hand resting on his. "I know this is hard for you, Daniel, but you are strong. You are gentle. You are the only one I can trust. My sister will not be harmed. She will only learn." Daniel pulled his hand back slowly. His heart thundered. "And what exactly do you expect me to teach her?" he asked, his tone sharp. Lyra hesitated. "Teach her how to be with a male. Teach her the ways of trust, comfort, and closeness. She has never even spoken to one without fear. You can change that." The room felt colder. Daniel stood and paced. His mind fought between two worlds, his human morals and the alien culture now pressing on him. He remembered the long voyage to this colony, the promises of peace, the idea that he could belong here. But this was not peace. This was a test. He stopped and faced her. "Lyra, I need time. I can't answer you now." She nodded, though sadness flickered across her face. "I understand, but soon the elders will ask. They will want to see if my sister has stepped into adulthood. They will demand answers. And if I have none, they will think I chose wrongly in you." Those words struck like a blade. Daniel felt the weight of expectations settle on his shoulders. Already, whispers of the colony judging him filled his imagination. Would they call him weak, dishonorable, unfit to be Lyra's husband? The door creaked softly and Daniel turned. A smaller figure stood in the shadows. A girl with eyes like Lyra's but dimmer, shy and afraid. Her silver skin shimmered faintly in the starlight. She looked no older than a young woman on Earth. Just stepping into her 20s, Lyra's voice was gentle. "This is my sister, Mira. She deserves a chance." Mira stepped forward, clutching her hands close to her chest. Her gaze flicked toward Daniel, then quickly to the floor. She could not even meet his eyes. Daniel's breath caught. This was real, not just words. The weight of two lives, two sisters now pressed on him. He had to decide, but as he looked at Mira trembling in silence, and Lyra watching him with hope, Daniel realized one thing. His next choice would change everything. Not only his marriage, but also his place in this strange new world. And the question lingered, heavy as the stars above. Would he follow his own human heart, or surrender to alien tradition? The air inside the small home grew heavy after Mira stepped out from the shadows. Daniel stood frozen, unable to decide what to say. His new wife Lyra kept her calm face, but Daniel could sense her nervousness. It was clear she had been waiting for this moment. Mira's steps were slow, her bare feet barely making a sound against the smooth floor. She looked fragile, like a bird too afraid to fly. Her violet eyes darted around, never landing on Daniel. For more than a second, her silver skin glowed faintly, but her body seemed tense, like every muscle was ready to run. Daniel cleared his throat, trying to break the silence. Mira, is it true you want this tradition? The young girl's lips trembled. She whispered so softly he almost missed it. I do not want it, but without it, I will be nothing. Those words cut deeper than Daniel expected. He felt anger rise in his chest, not toward Mira, but toward the culture that forced her into such fear. On Earth, a young woman was free to choose, but here, her worth was tied to something she did not even want. Lyra reached out and touched her sister's arm. Do not be afraid, Mira. He is kind. He will not hurt you. Daniel's jaw tightened. He felt trapped in a web he never asked for. His wife believed in him. Her sister depended on him. And yet every part of his human morality screamed to refuse. Still, he could not bring himself to walk away, not when two pairs of eyes looked at him with trust and desperation. Sit down, Daniel said quietly, motioning to the small table. Mira obeyed, but she sat at the very edge of the chair like she was ready to bolt. Her hands gripped the cloth of her simple dress. Her shoulders shook slightly. Daniel studied her carefully. She wasn't just nervous. She was terrified. Mira, he said, gently, do you even understand what your people are asking from you? She nodded weakly. It is what all must do. Without it, I am broken. I will never be chosen. I will never be part of the circle. Daniel leaned forward, his voice firm. Listen to me. You are not broken. You are not less. You don't need this to prove your worth. Mira blinked as if hearing such words for the first time in her life. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Lyra watched closely, confusion on her face. To her, Daniel's words were strange, because in her world, no one had ever questioned the tradition. Lyra finally spoke. Daniel, I know this is difficult, but she must go through it. Our laws are clear. If she does not, she will be mocked and shunned. I cannot let that happen. Daniel rubbed his temples. He felt like two voices battled inside his head. One saying, stand by your human values. The other whispering, respect their culture. Mira's voice broke the silence again. Do you hate me? Daniel looked up sharply. No, Mira. I don't hate you. Then why do you not want me? She asked in a trembling tone. The words struck him harder than he expected. He realized Mira had been told her whole life that this was the only way. To her, his refusal felt like rejection of her very being, and that crushed him. Daniel took a deep breath. It's not about wanting or not wanting, Mira. It's about choice. On Earth, no one is forced. On Earth, we believe people decide for themselves. That's what I want for you, too. For the first time, Mira looked directly at him. Her eyes were wide, searching. Choice? She whispered. The word sounded foreign on her tongue. Lyra frowned. Daniel, you are filling her head with dangerous thoughts. If the elders hear this, they will punish us both. Daniel stood, his voice strong now. Then let them. I won't. Be part of something that breaks her spirit. I will teach her something better, something human. The two sisters looked at him in shock. Lyra's hands tightened into fists. torn between loyalty to her culture and her husband. Mira's face softened, a tiny spark of hope lighting her eyes. A knock echoed on the door, sharp and heavy. All three froze. Lyra's eyes widened with fear. Mira gasped. Daniel's muscles tensed. The knock came again, louder. This time a voice followed, deep and commanding. Lyra, open the door. The elders demand to see your sister. Lyra's face paled. She whispered urgently, they cannot see her with you. They will think it has already begun. Daniel's pulse raced. He looked at Mira. Still trembling in her chair, he looked at Lyra, desperate and scared. Then he looked at the door. He had only moments to decide, hide Mira and lie, or face the elders and risk everything. The third knock shook the frame. The voice outside grew harsher. Open, or we will enter. Daniel clenched his fists, his jaw tightened. The forbidden sister was no longer just Lyra's problem. She was his responsibility now, and he knew whatever choice he made tonight, the entire colony would soon feel its weight. The pounding on the door grew louder. Daniel felt the sound echo in his chest. Mira's hands clutched the edge of the table so tightly her knuckles turned pale. Lyra's eyes darted between the door and her husband, fear flashing like lightning. Daniel, please, she whispered. If they see her now, they will demand answers we cannot give. Daniel's mind raced. He had never asked for this clash of worlds, yet here it was, pressing down on him. His human heart told him to protect Mira from this cruel demand, but his alien wife's voice begged him to respect their law. If he failed, both sisters would suffer. The heavy voice outside came again. Lyra, last warning, open the door, or face judgment. Daniel's decision was sudden. He grabbed Mira's hand, pulling her up from the chair. She gasped, but followed. He motioned to Lyra. Where can she hide? Lyra hesitated, her fear almost paralyzing her. But then she pointed to a narrow alcove behind a sliding panel. Daniel pushed Mira inside, her trembling body barely fitting into the small space. He closed the panel just as the door burst open. 3 tall figures entered. The elders, their cloaks dark and shimmering, their eyes glowed with cold authority. They filled the room with their presence, every step heavy with judgment. Lyra, the tallest one, said, We came for your sister. It is time she begins her path into adulthood. Bring her forth. Lyra bowed her head slightly. Elders, she is not ready. Give us more time. The elder's voice cut like a blade. Time is for the weak. Already she lingers in shame. Already the whispers spread. If she does not complete the rite soon, she will be cast out. Daniel stepped forward before Lyra could answer, his voice steady but burning inside. With respect, elders, she is not broken. She does not need this rite to prove herself. The room fell silent. The 3 elders turned their glowing eyes toward him, their faces unreadable. Lyra's breath caught. The elder nearest him sneered. A human dares to speak of our ways? You know nothing, outsider. Without the rite, she will never be accepted. Daniel's jaw tightened. Maybe she doesn't need your acceptance. Maybe she needs freedom. Gasps filled the room. Even Lyra looked stunned. The words were dangerous, reckless. Yet Daniel's heart refused to stay silent. The eldest elder leaned forward, his voice deep. Do not test our patience. Human blood may run wild, but you are bound by our customs now. You married into our people. You married our daughter. Our rules are your rules. Lyra's lips parted as if to defend him, but no sound. Her loyalty was torn in two. Daniel could see the conflict in her eyes. The elders studied him for a moment, then stepped back. Very well. The leader said coldly, If the human doubts our tradition, then let him prove another way. He has until the next full cycle to present his sister-in-law as worthy. If she is not, the punishment will fall on all 3 of you. With that, they turned and left, their cloaks swaying like shadows. The door shut behind them. Silence followed, broken only by Mira's soft sobs from behind the panel. Daniel opened the hiding place. Mira stumbled out, her eyes wide with terror. They will destroy us, she whispered. You should have let them take me. It is better to be shamed than to be punished. Daniel gripped her shoulders gently. No, Mira. Better to fight for what is right than to surrender to chains. You are not an object for their approval. You are a person. You deserve to choose. Lyra stood by the table, her hands pressed to her face. Daniel, what have you done? The elders never forgive defiance. You risked everything. He turned to her, his voice firm. I risked it because it's worth it. If we let them decide her future, she will never have one. If we let them control us, then what was the point of leaving Earth behind? Lyra lowered her hands, her eyes glistening with tears. You speak of freedom, but freedom here has a price. You do not know how heavy it can be. Daniel moved closer, lowering his voice. Then let me carry it. If this is the test, I will not fail. Not for you, not for Mira. Mira's trembling slowed. She looked between them, her voice barely audible. You would do that? For me? Daniel nodded. Yes, because you deserve more than fear. For the first time, Mira's eyes held a flicker of something new. Hope, fragile but alive. Outside, the night carried whispers of the colony. Rumors would spread quickly. The human had spoken against the elders. The sisters were under judgment. The countdown had begun. Daniel knew the days ahead would be dangerous. Every step watched, every word tested. But he also knew one thing with absolute certainty. He would not bend. He would not let Mira be broken by tradition. He would fight with every part of his human heart, between cultures, between laws, between fear and freedom. Daniel had chosen his side, and there was no turning back. The night after the elders left was long and sleepless. Daniel sat near the small window, watching the moons drift across the sky. His thoughts twisted like tangled wires. He had stood against the elders, but now the weight of his decision pressed heavily on him. One cycle. That was all the time he had to prove Mira was worthy, whatever that meant. Behind him, Mira lay curled on a mat, her body still trembling from the earlier encounter. Lyra sat beside her sister, stroking her hair, gently. Her face was pale, her eyes full of fear, yet she did not speak. She seemed caught between two worlds, her loyalty to her people and her trust in Daniel. Finally, Lyra broke the silence. Daniel, I must ask, why did you do this? You could have let them take her. You could have followed the custom. It would have ended quietly. Daniel turned his head, his voice low but firm. Quietly? You call it quiet when they strip her choice. You call it quiet when they shame her into obedience. Lyra, I didn't marry you to become a servant of your laws. I married you because I believed we could build something better, something free. Lyra's lips trembled. But you are only one man, one human. How can you stand against the weight of an entire culture? Daniel rose, pacing slowly. Because sometimes one is enough. On Earth we learned this the hard way. One voice can spark change. One act can shake tradition. If I give Mira away to their demands, I betray myself. I betray you too. Mira stirred. At his words she sat up, her violet eyes reflecting faint starlight. But Daniel, what if they punish you instead of me? What if they take Lyra away? What if they cast us out? Daniel crouched in front of her, meeting her frightened gaze. Then I'll face it. But I will not let them decide who you are. You are more than their rules, Mira. You are more than a ritual. Her lips parted slightly as though she wanted to believe him, but fear still weighed her down. Lyra whispered, Daniel, I do not understand your way. Your words are strong, but strength alone cannot protect us. The elders will come again, and when they do, they will demand proof. What will you give them? Daniel looked out the window again, his jaw tight. Not proof of their kind, but proof of another way. If they want Mira to stand before them, then she will stand. But as herself, not as their victim. Lyra shook her head. You speak like a dreamer. Our people do not bend to dreams. Daniel turned sharply, his eyes blazing. Then maybe it's time they learn. The next morning, Daniel began. He walked with Mira beyond the colony walls, out to the barren hills where few dared to go. She followed silently, unsure of what he intended. He stopped on a ridge where the wind howled. Here, he said. No elders, no laws. Just you and me, Mira. I want to teach you something different. She hugged her arms close. Teach me what? Strength, Daniel answered. Not the kind they demand, but the kind you carry inside. Strength to say no. Strength to choose. Strength to stand without shame. Mira frowned. But they will not listen to me. Daniel knelt in the dust, drawing lines with his finger. They will if you believe yourself when you stand before them. You must not look broken. You must not look afraid. They will see power in your eyes even if they deny your words, and that power will spread. Mira stared at him, her lips trembling. I don't know if I can. You can, Daniel said, firmly, because I believe you can. For days he worked with her. He taught her to walk with steady steps, to speak without her voice shaking, to meet someone's gaze without lowering her eyes. He told her stories of human history, of women who had defied kings, of people who stood against impossible odds. Each night she listened, wide-eyed, absorbing his words like water in dry soil. Lyra watched from a distance, torn between doubt and awe. She had never seen her sister smile before, not truly, yet under Daniel's guidance Mira began to change. The timid girl who once hid her face now raised her chin just a little higher. The silence in her voice began to break into soft but steady words. But the shadow of the elders loomed. Rumors spread across the colony. Whispers that the human was defying sacred tradition, that Lyra had betrayed her people by standing with him. Some voices even called for punishment before the cycle ended. One evening, Lyra confronted Daniel, her voice sharp with fear. You do not understand. They will not just judge Mira. They will judge all of us. If you fail, they will tear us apart. Daniel met her eyes unwavering. Then I cannot fail, Lyra. This is not only about Mira anymore. It is about every girl who will be forced to kneel. It is about whether we bow or stand. I will not bow. Lyra's eyes softened with tears. And if you lose? Daniel's hand clenched into a fist. Then I lose standing tall. That night, Mira sat close to him, her voice fragile. But brave Daniel, if I speak before them, will you stand beside me? He placed his hand on hers, steady and strong. Always. The cycle was ending. The day of judgment was near. The elders would demand their proof. The colony would gather to watch. And Daniel knew the choice he made would echo far beyond this small home. He had chosen to fight. He had chosen freedom. Now he would face the storm his choice had awakened. The colony buzzed with whispers as the final days of the cycle approached. Everywhere Daniel walked, eyes followed him. Some looked with curiosity, others with anger. The human who dared question the elders was now the center of gossip. Even, the children whispered in the corners, repeating the words they had heard from their parents. Inside their small home, tension thickened like storm clouds. Lyra moved about nervously, her silver hands trembling as she prepared food. Mira sat near the window, staring out at the glowing lights of the colony. Daniel stood near the door, his jaw clenched, his mind racing. We have only 3 nights left, Lyra whispered, breaking the silence. The elders will call us before the people. If Mira cannot stand with strength, they will destroy us. Daniel, what will you do? Daniel took a slow breath. We will not play by their rules, Lyra. I will not give them the proof they expect. Instead, we will give them something they cannot deny. Mira turned her head, her violet eyes wide. What do you mean? Daniel moved closer, lowering his voice as if the walls themselves had ears. A secret plan. They want you to show obedience. They want you to appear broken. But we will show them the opposite. You will not bow. You will rise. You will show them that a woman can stand without shame, without their ritual. If they call you unworthy, the people themselves will see the truth, and the elders will fear that. Lyra frowned. Daniel, this is madness. No one defies the elders in public. The crowd will laugh, they will spit. They may even call for blood. Daniel's eyes burned with fire. Then let them. I would rather face their anger than see. Mira crushed into silence. We cannot win by bending. We must win by standing tall. Mira looked down at her hands, trembling. But I am still afraid. Daniel knelt beside her, taking her hands gently in his. Courage is not the absence of fear, Mira. It is standing, even when fear grips you. Do you trust me? Slowly, she nodded. Yes. Daniel gave a small smile. Then, follow me, we will prepare. For the next nights, the secret plan unfolded. Daniel took Mira to the empty training hall where colonists once gathered for rituals. He showed her how to walk with steady steps, how to breathe deeply so her voice would not break. He taught her to look directly at those who judged her, never lowering her eyes. He told her stories of Earth, of young women who once fought empires, who rose from chains, who defied kings and rewrote the future. Mira listened with awe. Her fear did not vanish, but slowly her back straightened. Her voice grew steadier and her eyes began to shine with something new. Lyra watched from the shadows, torn apart. Her heart wanted to believe, but her mind whispered that this would end in ruin. Yet every night she saw her sister change. The timid girl who once shook at the sound of footsteps now spoke with words of her own. One evening, as the three sat together, Daniel shared the final part of his plan. When the elders demand proof, Mira will not bow. She will not speak words of shame. Instead, she will stand and tell them who she is. She will say, she does not need their approval. She will say she chooses her own path. Lyra gasped. That will enrage them, Daniel. They will call her cursed. They may strike her down. Daniel's voice hardened. Then I will stand beside her. If they strike me first. Let them show the people their cruelty. The crowd may fear the elders, but they do not love them. If they see a young woman's courage crushed, whispers will turn to anger. Anger will turn to change. Mira's eyes widened. You believe they could change? Daniel looked at her with certainty. Cultures are not stone, Mira. They are living things. They change when someone dares to push, and tomorrow, that someone will be you. That night, Mira lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her body trembled, but her heart beat with new fire. For the first time in her life, she thought of herself not as a shadow, but as someone who could shine. Lyra lay beside her, whispering softly, Sister, are you sure? This path is dangerous. Mira turned her head. I am sure Daniel believes in me, and for the first time, I believe in me too. Lyra closed her eyes, silent tears slipping down her cheeks. She wanted to protect her sister, but she also felt the pull of her husband's words. Could a human truly change their people's way? Could one man and one trembling girl stand against centuries of law? The next dawn brought an answer of its own. A messenger arrived at their door, cloaked in black. His voice rang like iron. The elders summon you. The judgment will be tonight. The door shut, leaving silence behind. Lyra's heart pounded. Mira's hands shook. Daniel stood tall, his face calm. It begins, he said. That evening, torches lit the grand hall of the colony. Shadows danced across the walls. Hundreds of eyes gathered, watching, waiting. The elders stood at the front, their cloaks heavy, their faces hard. Daniel walked in with Lyra and Mira at his side. The whispers rose like waves. The human had come to defy tradition. The forbidden sister walked with him, her head high though her hand still shook. The eldest elder's voice boomed. The time has come. Show us the proof, or face the sentence. Daniel looked at Mira, his eyes steady. Now, Mira, show them who you are. Thy secret plan was no longer a secret. The moment had arrived. The grand hall was silent except for the crackle of burning torches. Their flames painted long shadows across the carved stone walls. Mira stood at the center with Daniel by her side, Lyra just behind them, her heart pounding so loudly she thought the whole colony could hear it. The elders sat on raised seats, their glowing eyes fixed on the three. The eldest leaned forward, his voice sharp as steel. The time has come, human. You spoke against our laws. Now show us your proof. Has the sister completed her rite? Has she gained her experience? The crowd murmured, their whispers echoing like waves against stone. All eyes were on Mira. Some sneered, expecting her to bow in shame. Others leaned forward, curious, waiting for scandal. Daniel placed a steady hand on Mira's shoulder. His voice was firm, calm, yet filled with fire. She has gained something far greater than your so-called right. She has gained courage. She has gained her own voice. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The eldest elder narrowed his eyes. Empty. Words, human, we demand proof. Without it, your defiance ends tonight. Daniel looked down at Mira, nodding. His eyes said everything. This is your moment. Mira's hands shook, her throat dry. She wanted to run. But then she remembered Daniel's stories. About human women who stood against kings. About freedom chosen even in the face of fear. She straightened her back, lifting her chin. Her voice, though soft at first, carried into the hall. I am Mira, daughter of this colony. For years I was told I am nothing unless I bow. I was told I must be broken to be whole. But I say no. The whispers in the hall stopped instantly. Silence fell heavy. Like the air itself was holding its breath. I am not broken. She continued louder now, her trembling fading. I do not need your right to prove my worth. I am worthy because I live, because I choose, because I am me. The crowd stirred, some gasped, others frowned, but many simply stared in shock. Never before had a girl spoken such words in public. The eldest elder rose, his cloak swirling. His voice thundered, Silence, child, you disgrace our people, you dare defy the sacred path? Mira did not flinch, she met his glowing eyes. I dare because I have learned from a human what my own people never taught me, respect, courage, and freedom. The hall erupted into chaos. Some shouted in anger, others clapped their hands. Against their chests in shock, Daniel stood tall beside Mira, his jaw set, his eyes blazing. Lyra's heart raced as she watched her younger sister stand taller than she ever had. The eldest elder's fury shook the room. This is blasphemy. You twist her with your foreign tongue. You poison our youth with weakness. Daniel stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. Weakness? You call courage weakness? You call choice weakness? No, elders. The only weakness here is your fear of change. The elder's eyes flared. You dare insult us in front of our people? Daniel spread his arms, facing the crowd. I do not insult you, I speak truth. Look at her. Look at Mira. Does she look broken? Does she look worthless? Or does she look stronger than your chains? Mira raised her chin higher, her violet eyes glowing with fire. For the first time, she did not hide. The crowd shifted uneasily. Whispers turned to murmurs. Murmurs turned to voices. A few brave colonists even shouted, She is strong. She speaks true. The elders pounded their staffs, demanding silence. The eldest snarled, Enough! This mockery ends now, guards. Seize them. The heavy doors slammed open. Armored figures entered, their weapons gleaming. They moved toward Daniel and Mira. Lyra cried out, rushing forward, Stop, please. She is my sister. She is not a threat. But the guards ignored her. The colony gasped as the circle closed around them. Daniel stood in front of Mira, spreading his arms like a shield. If you want her, Daniel shouted, you go through me. The eldest elder sneered. So be it, human. Tonight your blood will feed our justice. The guards raised their weapons. The crowd held its breath. Mira's heart pounded so loudly it deafened her. Lyra clung to her husband's arm. And then before the guards could strike, Mira's voice rang out strong and clear. I am not afraid of you. The words cut through the hall like lightning. The guards froze for a heartbeat. The crowd gasped again. Her voice carried such power. It startled even the elders. Daniel looked back at her, pride burning in his chest. She was no longer the trembling girl hiding in shadows. She was something more. The eldest elder's fury shook his hands. Then you are cursed, he hissed. And all who stand with you are cursed. The crowd erupted again. Some shouted in agreement, but others began to rise, their voices louder. She speaks truth. The elders fear her. Let her choose. The hall trembled with conflict. The line between obedience and rebellion cracked. Daniel knew this was the breaking point. The guards waited for orders. The elders shouted, the people roared, and in the middle of it all stood Mira, tall and unbroken. Daniel whispered under his breath, Hold the line, Mira. This is the moment. The breaking point had come, and once crossed, nothing would ever be the same. The grand hall shook with voices. Half the crowd shouted for punishment. The other half whispered in awe of Mira's courage. The elders pounded their staffs against the stone floor, their anger filling the air like thunder. Guards stood ready, weapons drawn, waiting for the order to strike. Daniel kept his arms wide, shielding Mira. Lyra clung to her sister's hand, whispering prayers under her breath. Mira stood tall, her eyes glowing with new fire. She had spoken, her truth, and there was no going back. The eldest elder raised his staff high, his voice booming. This defiance ends now, guards. Seize them. Show the people that rebellion is death. But before the guards could move, a voice from the crowd rang out. Wait! Everyone turned. An older alien woman stepped forward, her silver hair glowing under the torchlight. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes were sharp. Elders, I was once a girl like Mira. I too walked in fear, I too bowed without choice, but now I see her courage and I ask, why should she bow? Why should any of us? Gasps filled the hall. The elders stared in shock. The woman's words spread like sparks on dry wood. More voices rose. She is right. Mira is strong. Let her choose. The guards hesitated. Their glowing eyes flicked from the elders to the crowd. They could feel the shift. The people were no longer silent. Daniel's heart pounded. He whispered to Mira, do not stop now. This is your moment. Claim it. Mira stepped forward, slipping out from behind Daniel's protection. Her voice rang clear. I am not broken. I am not cursed. I am not less. If you call me unworthy, then I accept your judgment, but I will not bow, I will not kneel. My worth is mine to decide. The hall trembled with shouts, some in anger, but many in support. The crowd surged with emotion. The elders tried to shout them down, but their voices were drowned out. Lyra's tears streamed down her face as she clutched her sister's hand. You did it, Mira, you truly did it. The eldest elder slammed his staff down, his fury uncontained. Silence, all of you. This human has poisoned our people. He has twisted our young. He must die. Daniel stepped forward, his voice like iron. If I die for this, then I die proud. But know this, elder. Your fear is not my shame, it is yours. You fear change, you fear freedom, you fear a girl's courage. The words cut deep. The crowd erupted again, louder this time. Their voices drowned out the staff. Freedom. Courage. Let her stand. The guards lowered their weapons, uncertain. Their loyalty wavered as the voices of the people thundered against the authority of the elders. The eldest elder's eyes blazed, but even he could feel the tide slipping. His power cracked as the people rose. No staff, no threat, no guard could silence them now. Finally, Mira lifted her hands high, her voice carrying through the storm. If I must be the first to stand without your right, then let me be. If I must be the first to face your anger, then let me be. But I will not be the last. From this day, let it be known. Our worth is not given by elders, it is carried within us. The hall erupted. The crowd cheered. Some wept openly. Others pounded their fists against their chests in support. The new tradition was born not by decree but by courage. The elders stood frozen, powerless against the tide. Their staffs lowered slowly. For the first time in generations, their authority cracked. Lyra held her sister close, whispering with pride, You have given us hope, Mira. You have given me hope. Daniel placed a hand on Mira's shoulder, his voice soft. You are not just Lyra's sister anymore, you are a symbol. You showed them a new way. Mira turned to him, her eyes shining with tears. I only stood because you believed in me, Daniel. You taught me I could choose. You taught me I was not broken. Daniel smiled faintly. And now you've taught them the same. That night, word spread across the colony. The tale of Mira, the forbidden sister who defied the right, passed from mouth to mouth. Families whispered it to their children. Women who once feared lifted their heads a little higher. Men who once laughed at the old customs began to question. The colony had changed. The elders withdrew, their pride wounded, but they could not silence the fire that had begun. They could not erase what had been spoken in the grand hall. In their small home, Lyra looked at her husband with awe. Daniel, you did more than save Mira. You changed our world. Daniel shook his head, his eyes soft. No, Lyra. Mira did that herself. I only gave her the strength she already had. Mira smiled, a true smile, free of fear for the first time in her life. Maybe one day no girl will have to bow again. Maybe one day freedom will not be rebellion, but our way of life. Daniel looked at both sisters, his heart full. For the first time since arriving on this strange world, he felt like he belonged, not because he followed their customs, but because he had dared to change them. And as the moons rose high above the colony, a new tradition was born. A tradition not of shame, but of choice. Not of fear, but of freedom. The human had brought his heart into their world, and the world would never be the same.